Okay, so this topic, I think a lot of people are, you're seeing a lot of people posting and a lot of people are talking about this leadership in crisis thing. But I wanted to address it also from a personal point of view. So I think we are seeing now that the world is going through a very difficult situation. We've seen this crisis happening, and potentially this is going to be even greater than the crisis in 2008, the financial crisis, because this particular crisis actually affects human distancing. We are all not allowed to be close with one another. We are not allowed to go through this with the type of physical love and emotion that we wanted to. So it's definitely a lot more difficult. But I truly believe that throughout any crisis in life that we go through, it is never forever, right? We need to take faith that this will actually end one day and life will continue, right? I know because I have gone through a lot of my own personal crises. And, the good thing about it is that every time that happened, I've bounced back. I bounced back from many crises. I myself have gone through crises since I was born. I've been through personally bad allergies, reactions to a divorced parents, causing me to live a changed lifestyle. I discovered a heart condition when I was younger, and I had to really change the way that I played sports. I had to survive a time in London, running out of money, and not being able to complete my education. I've suffered two and a half major business failures, and one of them actually causing me to even think about ending my life, because I really thought that ending my life was the only thing that was possible and the only get out of jail free card. But I think looking at every one of those single times, I'm here today. I am happy, I'm grateful, and I'm actually very eager, right, to live my life as long as I can. And it's really about this concept of bouncing back. I always feel that leadership in crisis is not about leadership during this time, but it's really leadership in how we are in ourselves, and how, if we actually fail, how do we bounce back? So one of the fundamental things I've always understood is that it is better to fall forward than to stand still and just slowly fall backwards, right? If we continue this concept of falling forward, we know we are always in a forward motion, and it's always easier to actually get up and bounce back and move forward again, right? I'm sure we all know that change is the only thing that's constant in our life, right? And obviously, this is one pandemic that it was not expected. This change was not expected. I know we're always saying that we have to disrupt ourselves, change ourselves, but I guess during this time is really a time where we really need to reflect on ourselves and really look at our business and look at how we are leading our life through this crisis. So I wanted to host this session because through many of the people that is asking me, I wanted to actually share my view about this leadership in crisis. And I need to just quickly apologize. My neighbor just decided that because he's at home now and he has time, he decided to do a bit of renovation and do some metal cutting just next to me. So I really apologize for that. So so what I start off with is also this word called influence. I think as leaders, we all need to understand that we have influence everywhere. Actually, every one of us as human beings, we have influence. We have influence with our suppliers. We have influence with our customers. We have influence in our families. When we go to the market and buy chicken, we also have influence. We are trying to influence him to give us discount. Everywhere, in any human leadership situation, we are always in a situation of leadership. This is not a role. Leadership is not a role. Leadership is really the way of being. It is part of how we live our everyday lives. So understanding that we all have influence is really whether it is positive or negative. We need to be conscious of how we are influencing other people. And when we really need to be, and when we And we really need to be very laser focused and very clear on what we are doing with ourselves. What is this purpose that we're living out? And really, in a time of crisis, being laser focused is the only way that we can get through this. So I wanted to get everybody a bit more scientific. I think for those of you who are familiar with us, we like to mix a combination of science and art in anything that we teach. And when I was studying the human psychology and the human brain, I won't go through the human brain process today, but I wanted to take one part of it, which was actually very important for us to understand. And it's very important for us to understand this because this is not only how we feel, but this is what our teams feel as well. When we are leading other people, when we're leading our families, when we're leading our parents, this is really what they're going through in their psychological mind. Now, if you look at this triangle that I'm showing you in front of you, you will realize that, at our peak, at the time that we're feeling the best and a positive state of ourselves, is really the times that we're making an impact. And on top of the triangle is where we see significance, right? And this is where we see happy thoughts coming. We see a lot of great positivity in our lifestyle and great positivity in our families, right? But when we actually go down this triangle, and this is very similar to what we call the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs is basically stating that at the very bottom basic need that we all need is safety. We need basic necessities. So if you look around this time of COVID-19 happening, right, why is it that people are panic buying? Why is it that people are suddenly buying so much toilet paper, right? Why is people buying rice and things like that? It's really because whenever we go down this down the level of stress and self-doubt, when we are doubting ourselves, the first thing that we think about is the safety of ourselves, safety of our needs. And this is why people start panic buying and start reacting to situations. So as a leader, we need to understand this basic conscious triangle and understand why people are behaving a certain way. I totally understood why people were panic buying. It was really because of this. So if you flip this triangle around and you start now right at the bottom, where everybody is feeling vulnerable now, everybody is feeling that their safety is being taken away. So as a leader, we now have the opportunity to really lead with intent. And we now really have the opportunity to understand, what do I need to do to make people feel significant and make people feel inspired. The first thing is always to get to understand that they need a sense of security, right? So, stop promoting fear, right? A lot of fear is going around. A lot of people are basically just standing still and spreading, oh, what's happening? Oh, this is happening, that is happening. This bad thing is happening, or people are dying. These are things that we cannot control. People that are dying, people that are suffering, people that are getting COVID, these are things that we cannot control. We need to look at what we can control, right? And really what will affect you, what affect our families, what affect our teams, right? Once you actually get the safety part in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs taken care of, then you can start to move up the triangle, right? So make people feel safe, number one. Let them know that basic necessities are taken care of. Then when you move up the ladder, then you can actually show love, right? Show them that they care. And then you take them up to really now creating impact and creating significance. Now, great leaders during this time can lead teams to creating even bigger things than before, right? In many of my companies today, every one of them are working until 12 midnight to 1 a.m. in the morning, right? Because they understand that they need to make a significant impact out of these 2 weeks. And as leaders, we need to make them feel from a safety perspective is taken care of. They will basically be shown love, and only then will they be able to go out and really fight these 2 to 3 weeks to really get this company up and running and better than before. So I'm sure many of you have seen this quote before, right? And really, to really understand this quote, whatever that is happening today, we being stuck at home, doing nothing, just looking at the news, waiting for the government to announce some form of subsidy for SMEs so that we can survive. That really is only 10% of what happens to us. We really now have to look at how are we going to react to this. And if we can actually look at the 90% of what's going to be happening in our life, then we need to know that something needs to be taken, some action needs to be taken, something that we need to be consciously aware of, some mindfulness that needs to happen. Now, this is, I'm not sure if some of you know, and some of you can read Chinese or even Japanese. So the Japanese or the Chinese kanji for mindfulness is that. And if you really break down this kanji character, right, on the top you can see is a roof, right? And sitting like a roof peak or a mountain, if you want to call it, it means presence, right? And today, this present moment, and beneath this peak, you see the bottom is basically the character of heart or mind, right? So having mindfulness, having a consciousness at this time is really a combination that suggests that we all need a conscious heart and a conscious mind, and understand that presence is needed for every single moment. Full awareness of heart and mind. So mindfulness, as you want to call it, is really knowing this theory, right? And this theory is if you are conscious about things that are happening, then you have this power to notice and this power of choice. You see, at the end of the day, the only thing that we have that nobody ever can take away from us, right? Anybody can strip me of my clothes, strip me of everything that I have. The one thing that I know that nobody can strip me of is my power of choice. And I know that I can choose. So leading and being a better leader in crisis scenario has a lot to do with this. We need to decide. We need to decide what we're going to do next, and don't wait. So then the last question here is this: what do we do, right? So I talk a lot about leadership itself. And recently, I've been talking to a lot of my mentors all across the world, talking to people like Warren Ruston, Daniel Friedland, and so on, and actually understanding that many leaders that have gone through successful and gone through critical times have all practiced these 5 different elements. And I wanted to share these elements with you guys today to understand that the first basic principle of leading is leadership of self. We all know that from a leadership pipeline, before you can lead others, right? Before you can lead an organization, you first have to lead others. And before you can lead others, you have to lead yourself first. So the first leadership of self principle is really having a clarity of purpose. If we don't know where we are going to, and we don't know where we're heading to, right? That is where fear, that is where stress will come in. If you really have a very clear understanding of where this company is going to, where am I going to, what am I going to be doing these next 2 weeks, what am I going to be getting, what results am I getting for the next 2 weeks? With that clarity, it not only gives you a very clear purpose, a very clear mindfulness, but also it gives clarity for your teams. So first, by having a clarity of purpose, it is one of the first keys of leadership of self. The second is the concept of acting and moving with intent. Right? It's really about carrying out this vision of purpose. We need to move. We need to really act on whatever we say. If we just sit down and just look at the news, look at the government policies, look at what is given to us, and we are really not thinking about the business, knowing how to innovate. A couple of during the weekend, we did a webinar called Crisis Innovation Strategy, and it's really to look at how do we move, what do we do tomorrow to move on this clarity of purpose, what do we pivot to, So moving is actually very, very important. We can't just sit down and just forward messages of, hey, you know what? I just got this forwarded message. This person is not feeling well. This person, we really need to move with our business. Thirdly, now is the most important time that we all live our values. A lot of times when I was doing the high performance teams program, we talk a lot about having core values in the company. The core values is our DNA. We cannot lose sight of our values. We need to look back at our values and really remind everybody, why are we here in the first place? Why are we creating this company? Why does this company need to exist? These values need to live in and live out at this very particular time. We cannot lose sight of this, right? It is the values that is what is going to bring everybody together. Remind your teams what the values are. Remind them that we are all in this together because we all believe in the same exact values. Fourth, over communicate, right? And during this time, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? So there's really no such thing as over communicating, right? Let people know what you're going through. Let people know this is the opportunity to lead. There's many people here and in this world today with a lot of uncertainty. This is an opportunity to be a leader, to tell them, to share whatever that you know. In Owner Circle, we have a needs and leads chat room. And I'm so amazed by the help and the sharing that's going through in the needs and lead chat room and also the business talk chat room. Many entrepreneurs helping each other. Somebody just posting and says, hey guys, I really need this. Can somebody help? Really, this over communication needs to happen at this time, right? Let people feel safe, let people feel loved, and let people feel significant within that hierarchy of consciousness. And lastly, very, very important, especially in the concept of working from home, it is very important for us to remind and to really have structured habits, structured rhythms that's happening on a daily basis. First, with yourself, right? We need to understand what are our habits that we're going through. I always talk a lot about this concept of brushing our teeth, right? We all know that as a child, brushing our teeth is one of the most difficult things that we had to do, but we did it every day. And through this practice of every day doing it, we eventually created a habit. And today we are brushing our teeth every day and we are cleaning our teeth and making sure that our teeth shines. There's always great things that happens when we have a structured habit. And I also shared this and I wanted to remind everybody of this case study, right? Our good friend at Owner Circle, Michel. And Michel actually spoke about how he's actually coaching some of the best athletes that Malaysia has ever produced. And I wanted to remind everybody of this story, right? The three people that you see here, right? The one on the left is Josia. Josia is our Malaysian #1 cyclist. We all know the person on the middle, which is Nicole, our former national squash world #1, and also our best badminton player in the world. But what makes these three people shine above everybody else? And the one commonality, of course, is Michel is their mindset coach. But Michel said to me one thing which really solidified this practice of structured habits. And what Michel said was this: the way that he trained the three of them was that every day when they went into practice, they practiced as if they were playing in the last game, the last final game. So when they go through this habit of training as if they were playing the final of every game, when they go into a tournament, what are they actually doing? Are they going into a tournament to compete and to win? No. When they go into a tournament, they are actually playing as if it's just every day. And it's really these structured habits that makes world champions, right? All successful people in the world and all great professional athletes have a very structured habit every single day. And I believe that if we take examples from all this and implement it within ourselves, and in our companies, that is where we will see us growing, and that is where we will see our companies getting out of this crisis and also growing as well, right? I know we want all this, especially at this time. Everybody in your teams is probably working from home. And the question is always about, now, if I can't see everybody, how do I make sure that everybody is flying in unison? How do I make sure that everybody is flying well together, right? I'll give you some examples. We all know Nando's. So Nando's Malaysia owner, Chong Lin, is a very good friend of ours. And if you know Nando's, one of the things that they're most famous about is their newsjacking, right? Every time a news come out, they'll be within a few hours. They will always come up with an advertisement to basically talk about that, right? This is one of their latest ones, right? Recently, if you remember when Burger King put up the picture of their Burger King, their burger being moldy, right? And Burger King said that this is what happens to my burger after a certain amount of days, right? They wanted to show that it's moldy because it's real, right? Immediately within hours, what did Nando's came up with? A picture of an empty plate and says, this is what our chicken looks like after a few hours. It's empty because it's so good, people will just eat it, right? But how are they able to come up with these things so quickly? How? It's because in Nando's, they actually have a marketing daily huddle every single day. Every single day, their marketing teams comes together and they ask themselves one major question. And they ask themselves, what is the news that's happening today and what do we need to put out today, right? And with this habit, this is the reason why they have actually changed their mindset and they are able to lead themselves into this habit. Now, the concept of habits is not new, yeah? I'm not the one that came out of it. And if you really looked in the past, right? In the past, we always used to laugh at Japanese companies, right? Because why? Japanese companies basically have an exercise every morning, right? And they have a very structured routine. At about 12 p.m., the lights were off in the office, right? And they will have to take a nap, right? And Japan, being a country so small, can be such an economic influence and economic driver in the whole entire world. Why? Because if you understand how they operate in companies, one of the key formula is they have a habit. They have a structure. So during this time when we are all working from home, when we are seeking for leadership of self, seeking for leadership in crisis, one of the most important moments is this establishing of our habit. And I wanted to share with you, one of my mentors, Warren Ruston, taught me this many, many years ago. And it's really understanding what is this habit for self. And he taught about this concept of doing the 10-10-10. And the 10-10-10 is really every single morning, every successful person wakes up and does a 10-10-10. It's picking up, doing 10 minutes of something, 10 minutes of another thing, and 10 minutes of another thing. And when you are able to establish this habit every single morning, you can wake up with very high consciousness. You can wake up with a mind of positivity, a mind that will prepare you for this crisis that you're facing every single day. And I encourage every one of you, right, to develop this habit of 10-10-10 on a daily basis. Every one of my teams, right, in my companies, most of them do this 10-10-10, and they have all fed back, right, that this is really some things that have changed their lives personally. I wanted to share with you one of my 10-10-10s, and really you can actually pick your own 10-10-10s that you do every single morning, right? So the first thing I do is the minute I wake up, the first minute, I ask myself, why am I alive today? What is my purpose? I remind myself my clarity of purpose, which is the first thing that I shared with you guys today. And the second thing is I spend 10 minutes in my gratefulness exercise. I ask myself, what am I grateful for today? I can almost guarantee you, in every crisis, in everything that we all go through, we can always be grateful for something. And what is this impact that we're doing by being grateful? We are trying to find this silver lining among the dark clouds. We're trying to find one positive effect that will come, right? You can be grateful about your family being here today. Working from home, you're able to suddenly cook more than you ever cooked, right? I know I posted up something where I said that, after this lockdown, everybody will start applying to be part of Master Chef, right? Because they're able to cook so much this couple of weeks. So understand that gratefulness gives you a sense of positivity to start your day. My next 10 minutes is about reading something inspirational or making us grow. Sometimes I choose a book to read. Sometimes I choose to read a spiritual article, right? I choose to read something with regards to my faith, right? I choose to read a Bible reading, for example. But something really inspirational, and by reading this, it actually helps to make you grow as a person. And this is very important. In times which we are in this movement control order, the one thing, if we cannot do something for the outside, we need to do something from the inside, right? If we can come out of this possessing a new skill or a new knowledge, that in itself, it will make us better after we come out of this MCO. And my final 10 minutes of the day is where I journal and I write my thoughts, right? I pull up my journal and I start writing, right? Writing about my day, writing about what I want to achieve today, right? Really being conscious of what am I going to go all out today to do, right? So by practicing these 10 minutes every single day, we can understand that once it becomes a habit, this is not only a habit, but it's a habit of positivity. And in the times of leadership in crisis, the most important thing that we need to understand, right, is that crisis also has opportunities, right? Crisis is not something negative, right? So start these days with your 10-10-10. And that is my suggestion to you. Now, how do you then take this practice of habits back to your teams? Now, I know I've shared concepts of daily huddle and weekly plans and so on. Be very conscious, especially when everybody is working from home, right? Two things need to happen. One, remember, over-communicate, right? People need to know that they are not alone. People need to know that you are a leader in crisis and a leader that's leading the direction and leading everybody away from this, right? In my companies, some of my companies, I've even started an evening huddle. So we do a morning huddle in the morning and we do an evening huddle in the evening. Why did I add this evening huddle in there? Right? Again, to make sure that they understand that we are not just doing this for the sake of doing. We are all in this together, right? I make sure that weekly plans happen. Every week on a Monday, we have the call and we plan the week, right? Turning this into a habit, again, moves people away from the fear, right? When you keep doing something every day, right? You are so busy that you will not think about the fear. You will not think about the consequence. You don't care anymore about what the government gives you. You are already working on your own plan and you're working with your teams in your own plan. So I'm not sure whether anybody knows this guy called Peter Drucker. So I've read a lot of his books, and one of the things that strike me in this time is that really the task of leadership is to create an alignment of strengths so that it makes the system's weaknesses irrelevant. And this is really what I've been talking about. Everything that happens to you now is 10% and it is irrelevant. The alignment of your teams, the alignment of the strengths, it's like a chess piece, right? How you're running your teams now should be how you are playing a game of chess. Knowing who is the castle, knowing who is the rook, knowing who is the queen, knowing who is the king, understanding how their moves are, and really shaping everybody and bringing up everybody's strength so that we can win this game of chess. So a couple of days ago, I actually was talking to Dr. Daniel Friedland, and he's the author of this book called Leading Well from Within. And if you want a new skill and you wanna understand more about this theory of leadership in crisis, that is a book that you can pick up called Leading Well from Within. So I don't have time to go through this, but I just wanted to share with you one of the things that we went through was really ask ourselves these 6 questions. What is the 6 questions that I can ask myself to go up my Maslow hierarchy of needs, to go up my conscious leadership triangle, right? Going from safety to significance. And the 6th question is this. The first is, what outcomes matters most and why? And this is really to build the clarity of purpose. Second, what's been most successful in the past? And this is to really understand what is our safety net. Third, what are our current strengths? And this is going up the ladder into love and significance. What is our vision for success? Number 5, what strengths will best enable our success? And lastly, what will you implement today to achieve your goals and achieve whatever you want for the rest of these days, right? So going through these 6 questions, I would recommend you to brainstorm this with your teams. It actually also gives them something to do, something to talk about, right? A lot of us do brainstormings with our teams now. So maybe this is something that you can brainstorm with your team. And how can we actually move away from this crisis situation? So at the end of the day, really, if you really look at it, in a form that we are going through, all of us are actually going through the exact same thing. And crisis creates character. I know we all know this saying that if you hammer a nail, right, it will never break. The only thing that we will do is it will bend, right? And what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. Now, and a crisis creates also opportunity. Now, I'll be very, very honest with you, right? There is going to be 2 types of leaders in these current times. And, when we watch the movie Avengers, and when Thanos actually snapped his fingers and half the population went away, right? And if you really look at that scene and what is happening today, I truly believe that that may actually happen to a lot of our businesses moving forward. If you look at the number of businesses that is in the world today, I unfortunately may actually say that not everybody will survive. Some of us may disappear. But who is it that will disappear and who is it that will survive? It is now really our time to be our leadership in crisis and understand that if we practice that 5 leadership of self characteristics, we can then build character and we can build opportunity, and we were the one that will be chosen to move the next level. I truly believe that we will see a moment of consolidation. You will see many companies consolidating. Some companies will not last. Some companies will die off. One of the things that will emerge out of this is there's a lot of talents that will be emerging from this exercise, right? So when talents emerge out of this exercise, if you are still here, you are now have the opportunity and the ability to hire these new talents. So we need to really look at what are we doing next. So lastly, in the end, always remember, right? This choice is ours. It's really a power of choice. Are we going to be focusing on the news and 10% of what happens to us and just focusing on being at home? Or are we really going to spend this time to really shape the 90% of how am I going to react to this and react to this positively? And that is what I wanted to share about leadership in crisis. I thought it was an opportunity to share some of my experiences and what people are going through. And as a community, I truly believe that we are all in this together, right?